Hello and welcome. This is my first video of 3 on idea groups in Europa Universalis 4. This video is mainly for new players and players who need some help with idea groups. And the first video is going to be on military ideas. The reason why is because I believe most newer players or players who aren't as good at the game, I'd advise them to take a military idea group, because it helps the player, new players, the most. So when you hit level, administrative level 5, you get to pick an idea and advise a military idea. The one I'd advise if you're a new player is to take defensive ideas. Now, the thing with idea groups, and you'll hear this a lot if you see forums, etc., and read. People will always have a different opinion. It's very, very, very subjective. So this isn't a 100% answer, because everyone will tell you something different, and nations often prefer different ideas. So this is mainly for people who, when you start off as a new player, I'd take one of the great nations like Castile or Portugal, France, England, Ottomans, etc., and I would take defensive ideas because they have yearly army tradition +1, which is great. It allows you to roll better generals if your tradition's higher. Better generals is always a great thing for your army. Plus 50% morale of armies is incredible. It is noticeable, and this is the main reason why I'd advise new players to take defensive ideas. Having at the beginning of the game superior tech, because you should always focus on your military tech. What I mean with focus on your military tech, if you're a new player, is to go here and just click on that. Click on that to make sure it has a tick. I put the tick away, but ignore that. And then you'll have more military tech. And then at the beginning of the game, you want to make sure your military tech is always as high as possible, so you're before everyone else. And you also have defensive ideas. So seeing that you want to be ahead in military tech, I would only put your defensive ideas up to here, and then only take the other ideas when you're rolling in military tech at points, right? So that's why defensive ideas is good. Everything else here, the maneuver, that means your general gets +1 maneuver, your army's cheaper, your forts are cheaper and tougher. Reinforcement speed is very good, but I believe the +33% only counts when you're in foreign territory, so not in home territory. I believe it's capped at 100%, but don't quote me on that one. I'll have to check that out again if someone's interested. Land attrition means when you take attrition, you take -25%. So when you're sieging forts, and when you're over the force limit on territory, like here it says supply limit's 25. Anything over 25 means you start taking damage to the units, and having something like this is handy. And then also the +1 for attrition, meaning that enemies that attack you and siege your provinces take 1% every month in damage. So that's quite good. But the main reason you take it is for these two ideas at the beginning of the game. They are incredible, and having a higher morale means you can probably stack wipe many armies, and it just means it's so much more fun. Right, and then I'll start with from top to bottom now after I've gone over defensive ideas. Aristocratic ideas is an idea group that I'd advise for people who play a horde nation, or a nation that's very rich and has a lot of cavalry. You can naturally have France and have a lot of cavalry, and then aristocratic is a good idea group to take. It's something that people usually take a little bit later in the game, so not as the first idea group, because like I said, I'd advise you to take defensive, but you can if you want. And it's just focused here on cavalry, as you can see. Cheaper cavalry, better combat ability, which means they do more damage. Cheaper military cost is not bad. Monthly autonomy change is good. More troops, tradition decay, which means better generals, a diplomat and a lead upkeep, which is exactly what it says there, and leader siege +1, which is also quite nice. So aristocratic ideas is an interesting idea group, and you can take it if you, like I said, have a lot of cavalry, or you need specific things in this group. It's something that you might take as your second military idea. It's very nice. It's a great idea. Offensive ideas means leader shot +1, which means your leader's better. Leader fire +1, your leader's better. Recruitment time is uninteresting. Prestige from battles is okay. Having a high prestige is actually quite a good thing. So that's not bad. Siege ability plus 20% means when you try and siege down forts, it's better, so it's a nice idea. Land force limit modifier plus 20%, so plus 20% more troops. Discipline plus 5%, which is a nice thing. Better later game, not as effective in the early game as morale is. And recover armor morale speed, so your morale recovers faster. Offensive ideas is also a great idea group. To be honest, these three here are the best, and like I said, this is the best in general, I find. These are great. They're just great ideas. And there's nothing... it depends really how you want to play. If you want better leaders and to be more aggressive and better siege, having a high discipline is always great. So yeah, quality is a late game thing. You don't take it as your first, second idea, maybe your third or fourth. Military idea. So you take it later in the game, after like 200 years or something like that. I mean, you can take it earlier if you have someone like Prussia, which you can found from Pomerania, I believe, in Brunswick and Brandenburg. But like I said, if you wanna found Prussia, I'd advise you to look at a guide. Or if you take Sweden, quality ideas early is actually not a bad thing. I think Persia also gets infantry combat ability. If I'm wrong, I might be wrong there. But quality ideas is a late game idea that you take, and it just gives you army of tradition, which is fantastic, like I said. But it gives you the combat ability in all your troops, which means that they do more damage and discipline. But it's just something you don't take early. You take it late game. And then quantity ideas. Now, a lot of people in a lot of guides will say take quantity ideas. I actually would advise you not to take quantity ideas. Quantity ideas just means you get more troops. Your troops recover faster. Your troops are cheaper. Ignore mercenaries. I don't value them at all. Garrisons bigger, which is not that important. Land attrition, like I said with here, but it's a lot weaker, but that's not that important. And land force, which means you get 50% more troops. 50% of a base. So I think it's additive, the whole things, but you don't need to worry about too much about that. Now, quantity doesn't give you a better army, it just gives you a bigger army. And a lot of people like big armies, and they'll say, yeah, if you pick a nation, specifically a small nation, take quantity because you have more army, blah, blah, blah. And it used to be that it was hard to get manpower, but now with new patches, it's become easier to gain manpower by certain things like this here, slacking recruitment standards, which means you can tank your professionalism and get more troops, just things like that. And it just means that manpower is not as difficult to get as it was before. And also because the other ideas give you, let's look, if you have a quantity idea fighting against a defensive idea army, now the quantity army might have a bigger army, sure, but the defensive idea army will beat them because they'll have plus 15% morale damage, and they'll just be superior, and you will struggle. And so therefore I'd advise you to take defensive, and then maybe as your second idea one of these two, and then in late game this one, and you will have an incredible army. And there you go. I think that's it. I didn't want to go into too much detail because I could talk about this for hours. I hope this guide was helpful. I mean, it was a bit... The game is so detailed and so deep. Like I said, I could talk about this stuff for hours, and the idea was just to give a short explanation of what ideas to pick. And there you go. There's nothing more to it. If you have any questions, you can write in the comments, and I'll do my best to answer them. I don't expect to get many views anyway. But like I said, some people might really need help with the idea groups, and I can understand it. The game is fantastic, but it's also high learning curve. And I wish you a good day.